Welcome to Writer's Block. I'm your host, Journal staff writer Sean Ryder. This show is presented to you by New Mexico Shoes. We're very thankful to have them as our sponsor. If you enjoy our podcast, please like and subscribe and consider becoming a digital subscriber to the Albuquerque Journal to help us continue to bring more content like this. You can find this episode and all of our podcasts on the Albuquerque Journal website at abqjournal.com, as well as on YouTube, iTunes, Spotify, and SoundCloud. See the show notes for a discount on a digital subscription if you're interested. And thank you for supporting the Albuquerque Journal, New Mexico's leading local news source. And today's show, kind of a big one, kind of an interesting one. We're diving into UNM's upcoming regular season finale at Hawaii. UNM is 5-6, 3-3 in conference against Hawaii, 4-7, 2-4. And this is probably the biggest game UNM has seen in years in terms of, just what it means and what's at stake in terms of a bowl bid and all that. Obviously, it is win-and-in season for UNM and the first time in a long time. And we're kind of talking a little bit about, what Hawaii brings to the table as well. And some of the things that are kind of going on with UNM, too, heading into this one, particularly with some defensive depth issues. All right, welcome back to another episode of Writer's Block. I am your host, as always, Journal staff writer Sean Ryder. Before we get into things, I would like to thank our sponsor, New Mexico Shoes. They've been an excellent partner for the show. Tired of shoes that don't quite fit right? New Mexico Shoes has a solution. Introducing our custom insoles and arch supports made just for you and ready the same day right here in Albuquerque. Perfectly tailored to your feet, enjoy the comfort and support you need. And while you're here, explore a huge selection of top brands. From casual to athletic, we've got the perfect pair waiting for you. Visit newmexicoshoes.com for hours and location details. All right, as I mentioned in the intro, this is truly the biggest game for New Mexico in a long time, probably since 2016, the last time they made a bowl. If you're not kind of counting the yearly New Mexico State games and all that as well, because of everything that's at stake for a program under Bronco Mendenhall that's kind of, really committed to treating every game similarly and kind of treating each week as, one and the same, more or less. It's just another game. It's just another opportunity. Clearly, it's not overemphasized, but there is something to, how players and coaches are kind of treating this. Was kind of interested to, hear Bronco talk about it yesterday in terms of what the game could mean.
They're a good football team, especially and distinctly their performance at home and on the island. I noticed it on film. And so I think that, man, they're physical defensively. They're really well coached. Their statistics are strong. And offensively, the scheme is a challenge. The receivers are capable, and anyone that goes there is battling like crazy to try to come out with a victory, and we won't be any different. So, yeah, we're preparing, much like any Mountain West game we've played this year, we're preparing for a last possession game with an equal opponent, a league full of parity with a lot on the line.
In terms of Hawaii and what they're bringing to the table, 4-7, 2-4 in the Mountain West. Those two Mountain West wins were a win over a win over Nevada on the island. I think it was 34-13, and then a kind of a miraculous 21-20 win over Fresno State. But they played a ton of really close Mountain West games. I believe a 28-7 loss to Boise, which doesn't look that close, but they were really in that game until about midway. Maybe even lower than that, midway through the fourth quarter or so. A 29-27 loss to UNLV, who's been excellent this year, and then a 27-24 loss to San Diego State, who is kind of, things haven't gone their way the last 2 weeks, but they're really kind of in that class of, competitive game in and game out Mountain West teams for the most part. In terms of what they're doing, offensively, it's kind of a modified I don't want to say modified, but to a certain degree, there's run and shoot concepts there, and that kind of head coach Timmy Chang thrived with when he was a player, although there is some RPO stuff as well. It's not a true straight-up run and shoot in a lot of ways. Braden Shager is the quarterback. He's thrown for 2,591 yards, 19 touchdowns, and 13 interceptions. His status for Saturday's game is kind of unclear at this point. He suffered a leg and ankle injury in a 55-10 loss to Utah State on November 16th. That was kind of a weird game in terms of going back and watching. That was really the only blowout that Hawaii has suffered this season so far. It's really kind of a weird one. Shager basically went out in the second drive of the game, Bryson Barnes was filling in for Spencer Petras on Utah State, and Barnes played incredible. It feels like Utah State, as a side note, has kind of hit their stride a little bit later than they were hoping, but certainly playing some good ball as of late. In terms of the offense this year, it has not been an overwhelmingly consistent product in a lot of ways. I think they're averaging just 20.9 points per game, which is 10th in the 12-team Mountain West. I know that has been a bit of a disappointment for some Hawaii fans and some kind of people around the program and all that as well, too. This is Chang's third year as a head coach, by the way, as well. And it's kind of, I don't want to say disappointing for me because it really would never be in my kind of shoes, but I was expecting them to do a little bit more this season, and I was expecting them to be in contention for a bowl at this point, even if they won on Saturday at 5-7 with the 2 FCS wins that they have in the schedule. They couldn't slide them with APR. And frankly, with the amount of bowl slots and all that too, I mean, I think we're going to have all, bowl eligible teams off wins as opposed to, APR and all that. The defense has been a different story. They're giving up 367.5 yards per game. And 25.6 points per game. That is 5th and 6th, respectively, in the Mountain West. It's the first time they've allowed less than 30 points in a season to this point per game since, less than 30 points per game in a season since 2020. They brought in Dennis Thurman, who's got a good NFL background, good pedigree as the as a defensive coordinator this year, and he's done really nice work. The 2 players that have really stood out to me, cornerback Cam Stone and safety Peter Manuma. I really like what they do in the back end defensively. I do really think this is a pretty tough secondary. And it's honestly made a pretty big difference in a lot of these games as well, too. It's just not a defense that you've seen out of Hawaii in recent memory. Jimmy Otis has also done some really nice stuff at linebacker. And then Elijah Robinson has been a good in the trenches there for them on the defensive line. So a lot going into it. And, in terms of playing at Hawaii, I did think a lot of the comments that Bronco had this week were kind of interesting and all that too. One, he's clearly not taking going to the island lightly. And for kind of 2 reasons. One, you said that you could almost see on tape how they play a little bit harder there and how it does kind of add an element to that game too. It is kind of a true home field advantage and all that. And also the kind of distractions element. Kind of asked him a follow-up question, given how he kind of talked about how when it is a destination trip like Hawaii, similar to a bowl game or a postseason appearance, that there are kind of distractions and people, around the team, maybe not on the team, but around them that kind of want to, make things, recreate more than actually focus on the game and all that too. And here's his answer, and I just kind of thought it was interesting.
There's a lot of challenges as you get to postseason play, bowl games especially, with family members and friends that are coming, and they're actually coming to vacation, right? They're coming to recreate. They're coming for a bowl experience. They're not preparing to play the game. Traveling to Hawaii, and when you leave one day earlier, it's not postseason, but there's elements of that. And so the reality of not addressing those coming to recreate and those coming to vacation, yeah, it's not fair to my players because they are. The game is part of their experience, is why they're going. We're going only for the football game, and we're going only to have success in the football game. And so there's going to be some maybe hard conversations between players and others of our players being the grown-ups. Like, no, that's not what I'm here for. And so that's part of a growing, maturing football team is new scenarios with high stakes and settings that have you manage more of your free time in settings and locations that are usually destinations, which postseason play is part of that.
In terms of UNM this game, there are some interesting depth questions kind of at play right now. As of yesterday, Monday, during the one practice window we got this week, defensive tackles Bryce Santana and Tyler Keeney were both seen in turquoise jerseys, which usually means injured, limited, or non-contact. If you are... if there are injured players that are in turquoise, and they did not practice on Monday. I didn't see defensive tackle Kyler Drake. I know he has been dealing with something after, I believe, the San Diego State game. And if all 3 miss Saturday's game, I think they're going to be in a really interesting spot overall. They're going to have to really lean on Garrison Walker and Devin Brand-Epps in a similar way to what they did against Washington State. I wouldn't be shocked if we saw if only for a little bit, but maybe a little bit more in the Washington State game. Malik Elaine, who is the backup center, but also got some reps at nose against Washington State, and Sakai Woodard, who is a true freshman and made his, kind of funny, made his first ever, got his first ever game reps at UNM in college overall against Washington State in a game that was really important for UNM and, what they're trying to do and all that as well. Cornerback Noah Polegates was not in turquoise, but he wore a gray jersey, typically worn by quarterbacks and other players that have been deemed non-contact. We've seen that before. I know Christian Ellis at one point earlier in the season. I think he was dealing with something at that point, and didn't miss any time. In fact, he still leads the country in terms of snaps played among FBS safeties. But I think that's just kind of a non-contact precaution while he was actually practicing. And then running back Javen Jacobs also remained sidelined after suffering an undisclosed injury against Utah State. I guess just kind of boil it down with the injuries. I am very curious about this defensive line and whether they can kind of keep riding Walker and Brant Epps in the way they did against Washington State, or if it will kind of present a little bit more of an issue. Outside of the first half and a couple other things, a few moments in the second half, I thought the defensive line did a lot of nice things against Washington State. But still, it's kind of, it's a little tricky to, have that bye week and be coming off of it and still not be able to probably get those guys back. But we'll see. Per usual, Bronco did not give an injury update and did not give any, firm and fast insight into all that, too. Another thing I'm curious about, too, in terms of how this game could play out, defensively, Mendenhall mentioned that he likes how UNM's defense has been finishing lately, and clearly they're on a 2-game win streak, and they've kind of really turned the season around. They're on the brink of a postseason appearance, but that he would like to see a faster start from the defense. I think after the Washington State game, that seemed kind of like an obvious thing. I think things played into their hands a little bit in the sense that they knew they had to weather the storm against Washington State early. But I'm curious to see, if there are kind of any adjustments in tendencies or aggressiveness kind of early on to kind of help set that up, or, how the UNM really just comes out. A lot of guys this year, particularly safety Noah Avenger, have talked about how when they have struggled to start, like they did against Utah State defensively, that it has just been kind of a mindset thing, and they just really weren't, I don't want to say not locked in, but that they just weren't, kind of in that space that you get like mid-game and all that if you've been playing for a while. So curious to see how much that kind of impacts this game. Offensively as well, too. I don't think it was an emphasis from anybody, too. I do think a fast start will be kind of a key in this game. I think UNM has been interesting in the sense that they've done a good job, both kind of playing from behind to a certain degree in some games, and playing from ahead too. And I think they're more accustomed to playing from ahead if you're kind of going back to that previous 3-game win streak earlier in the season as well too. Just kind of curious to see how that all plays out as well. Beyond Jacobs, that is the only offensive injury, and he's been out for a while now too, so it's not a new one. So I am expecting the full complement of offensive players on Saturday too. I think anything in terms of guys like Luke Weissong maybe needing to get a little bit more rest. I think everybody in general, honestly, it's late in the season. Guys have been taking hits and practicing, going hard for a while. I think that's kind of going to be the full complement for the offense as well too. So that should be probably pretty heartening for a lot of UNM fans as well too. But with that being said, that's really all I have today. If you have any other questions, feel free to shoot me an email at srider@abqjournal. We will not be doing a post-game live show after this game because it is a late kick. It's 9 p.m. Mountain Time. Jeff will also be dealing with my colleague, journal staff writer Jeff Grammer. We'll also be dealing with some stuff on his own end in terms of basketball and all that as well. But we will be doing a live show at some point this week and some point the week after to kind of recap the season and really kind of dive into whatever happens at Hawaii.